Sylvain didn't know the stranger on the dais was the Alpha King. She didn't know his wolf had been restless for months, searching for something it couldn't name. And she definitely didn't know that the shift they were forcing on her to prove her bloodline was cursed would change the fate of two kingdoms. All she knew was that her knees ached against the cold stone, and the jeering crowd wanted blood. The courtyard of the Ashford Pack compound was filled to bursting. Warriors lined the walls. Elders sat on their carved chairs, faces twisted with righteous disgust. And at the center of it all, Sylvain knelt in the dirt, wrists bound behind her back, wearing nothing but a thin shift that did little against the mountain wind. "Cursed blood," the crowd chanted. "Tainted mongrel." She'd heard it her whole life. 23 years of being told her mother had mated with something unnatural, something wrong. That Sylvain carried that wrongness in her very bones. She'd never been allowed to shift publicly, never permitted to run with the pack. They said her wolf would prove the corruption, that one look at her form would confirm everything they whispered behind closed doors. Today, they would finally force the truth into the open. Alpha Gregor of Ashford stood above her, his gray beard trembling with theatrical outrage. "This female has lived among us as a stain on our honor. Her mother Celestine broke sacred law, bred with a creature of darkness, and produced this abomination." He gestured at Sylvain like she was rotting meat. "Today we cleanse our pack of her taint. She will shift, and all will see what hides beneath her skin. Then she will be cast out, or killed, depending on what emerges." Sylvain kept her head down, but her pulse hammered against her throat. She'd never fully shifted, not once in her life. Her wolf had always been there, a presence curled deep in her chest. But every time she'd tried to reach for it, the elders had stopped her. Herbs in her food, chains during full moons, anything to keep her contained. Now they wanted the very thing they'd spent years preventing. She didn't understand, and that terrified her more than the death threats. A hand gripped her hair, yanking her head back. Beta Tomas, Gregor's enforcer, smiled down at her with too many teeth. "Shift, mongrel. Show us the beast your mother made." Sylvain's throat tightened. "I don't know how. You never let me." Pain exploded across her cheek as he struck her. The crowd roared approval. "Then we'll help you." Two more enforcers stepped forward, carrying iron brands, glowing cherry red from the nearby brazier. Sylvain's stomach dropped. Silver couldn't force a shift, but pain could. Enough agony, and the wolf would claw its way out to protect its host. The first brand pressed against her shoulder. Sylvain screamed. The world went white, then fractured into something she'd never experienced. Her wolf didn't claw forward. It erupted, like a star being born inside her chest, like every cell in her body remembered a song it had forgotten for centuries. The ropes around her wrists disintegrated. The thin shift shredded away, and Sylvain wasn't standing in the courtyard anymore. She was above it, inside a form made of light. The screaming stopped. Not hers. Everyone's. Silence crashed over the compound like a physical weight. Sylvain looked down at herself and saw fur that glowed like captured moonlight, paws that left faint luminescent prints on the stone, and eyes that reflected not firelight but starlight, ancient and endless. She was beautiful, impossible, radiant, a starlight wolf. The elders stumbled backward, faces white with terror. Alpha Gregor's mouth opened and closed like a landed fish. Even Beta Thomas had dropped the brand, staring at her like she'd crawled out of a nightmare or a legend. But none of that mattered, because at the edge of the dais, where a group of unfamiliar warriors had been watching in silence, a man stepped forward. Tall, dark-haired, wearing black leather and a crown of iron thorns. His eyes were the color of a winter storm, and they were fixed on her with an intensity that made her luminous fur ripple. And then, without warning, his form exploded outward too. His wolf was massive, coal-black, radiating power that pressed against Sylvain's senses like a thunderclap. An alpha's wolf, a king's wolf. It stalked toward her, and every other wolf in the courtyard cowered, submitted, and pressed their bellies to the ground. But when the black wolf reached Sylvain, it didn't attack. It didn't dominate. It bowed. For 3 heartbeats, no one breathed. The Alpha King's wolf, the most powerful creature in 6 territories, pressed its massive head to the ground before Sylvain's glowing form. Its posture wasn't submission exactly, but something older, deeper. Recognition. Reverence. Sylvain's mind spun. She didn't understand what was happening, didn't understand why her body was made of starlight, or why this wolf, this king, was treating her like something sacred. She'd spent her entire life being told she was garbage, and now— Impossible, Alpha Gregor breathed. He'd gone the color of old ash. That's not— She can't be— Can't be what? The black wolf shifted, and suddenly the man was standing there again, all coiled power and sharp edges. When he spoke, his voice carried across the silent courtyard like a blade. Say it, Gregor. Tell everyone what you've been hiding. Gregor's jaw worked. His eyes darted to the elders, but they offered no help. They looked as terrified as he did. I don't know what you mean, Alpha King Valen. The girl is cursed. Her mother mated with— Her mother, Valen cut in, cold as winter iron, was the last daughter of the Star Bloodline, the most sacred bloodline in wolf history. And you've kept her child as a slave for 23 years. The words landed like physical blows. Sylvain felt her wolf form flicker, the shock threatening to pull her back into her human skin. Starblood. She'd heard the word in old songs, half-remembered lullabies her mother had sung before she died. But it couldn't be real. It was myth. That line is extinct, Gregor protested, but his voice shook. They died out centuries ago. Clearly not. Valen's storm-gray eyes found Sylvain, and she felt the weight of his gaze like a hand pressing against her ribs. Shift back. I need to speak with you. It wasn't a request, but it wasn't cruel either. Just certain, like a man who had never been disobeyed and couldn't imagine why he would be. Sylvain's wolf resisted, wanting to stay in this form that felt more right than anything she'd ever experienced. But exhaustion was already creeping in, the transformation draining reserves she didn't know she had. She let the light fold inward, felt her bones reshape, and then she was kneeling on cold stone again, human and naked and shaking. Someone draped a cloak over her shoulders. Not Valen, but one of his warriors, a man with copper hair and kind eyes who carefully didn't look at her exposed skin. She belongs to Ashford Pack. Gregor tried again, desperation creeping into his tone. Whatever her bloodline, she's our property. Our laws. Your laws. Valen's voice dropped to something dangerous. You branded her. I watched your enforcer burn her skin to force a shift you'd spent 2 decades suppressing. Don't speak to me of laws. He extended his hand toward Sylvain, not grabbing, not demanding, offering. Come with me, he said quietly. I swear on my crown you'll come to no harm. Sylvain looked at his hand, then at Gregor, at Tomas, at the pack that had starved her and beaten her and called her monster since she was old enough to understand words. She took the Alpha King's hand. They didn't speak until they were inside a private tent at the edge of the compound, far from Ashford's prying eyes. Valen's warriors had surrounded the structure, creating a wall of muscle and steel that no one would breach. Sylvain sat wrapped in the borrowed cloak, still trembling. Not from cold anymore, but from the aftershocks of everything. Her shoulder throbbed where the brand had touched. Her mind raced with questions she couldn't organize into words. Valen stood by the tent's entrance, his back to her, tension visible in every line of his body. When he finally turned, his expression was controlled, but his eyes gave him away. Something raw beneath the surface, something desperate. "I've been searching for you," he said. "For someone like you. 3 years, across every territory, following rumors and dead ends. I'd almost given up." Sylvain's voice came out hoarse. "Why? What do you want from me?" He was silent for a long moment. Then he crossed to a small table, picked up a leather satchel, and withdrew something wrapped in dark cloth. When he unwrapped it, Sylvain saw a lock of hair, honey gold and tied with a silver ribbon. "My sister Iceland," Valen said quietly. 17 years old. 3 years ago, during a raid on our eastern border, she was struck by a curse. Shadow magic. Old and vicious. It's killing her slowly, eating away at her from the inside. She has months left, maybe weeks. His hands were steady, but Sylvain saw the way his jaw tightened, the way grief flickered behind his iron control. "Our healers have tried everything. Every remedy, every ritual, every magic worker from here to the southern seas. Nothing works." He looked at her directly. "Except there's a prophecy. Ancient texts that speak of star-blood wolves, the ones who carry light in their very essence. They say only Starlight can burn away shadow. Only your kind can break curses that nothing else can touch." Sylvain's stomach nodded. "You think I can heal her? I think you're my last hope." The raw honesty in his voice made her ache. This wasn't an arrogant king making demands. This was a brother watching his sister die and willing to kneel before strangers if it meant saving her. "I've been searching for years, Sylvain, chasing whispers of your bloodline, being told again and again that Starbloods were extinct. And then 3 days ago, I heard about a pack in the mountains that kept an Omega locked away, a girl they called Cursed, and whose mother had supposedly been executed for bearing a child of unnatural light." He paused, something dark crossing his features. "Though I have my doubts about that story. Ashford claims they killed your mother for her crime, but the Shadow Wolves have been hunting Starbloods for centuries. It's far more likely they did the killing, and Ashford simply took credit to hide their cowardice." The words hit Sylvain like a blow. She'd grown up believing Ashford had executed her mother. The possibility that it had been someone else, something else, cracked open a wound she thought had scarred over long ago. Valen set down the lock of hair. "I came to observe, to see if the rumors were true. I never expected—" He stopped, seemed to struggle for words. "Your form. Your wolf. Even mine recognized what you are." Your wolf bowed to me. "Yes." He didn't look away. "It's never done that. Not to anyone. Not even to my own father when he was alive." The weight of that settled over Sylvain like a second cloak. She thought about Aislinn, 17, the same age Sylvain had been when her mother died. Thought about the desperation in Valen's eyes, so carefully controlled but still bleeding through the cracks. "If I help you," she said slowly, "what happens to me after?" "Whatever you want." His response was immediate. "Gold, land, protection, freedom to go wherever you wish. I'll give you anything in my power to give." "And if I can't save her? If this star blood magic isn't real, or I don't know how to use it?" Something flickered in his expression. Pain, carefully banked. "Then I'll have lost her anyway, and you'll still be free. I don't punish people for failing at impossible things." Sylvain studied him, this king who had watched her be tortured and then knelt his wolf at her feet. She should be terrified, should be running. But for the first time in 23 years, someone was looking at her like she mattered, like she might be the answer instead of the problem. "Tell me about the curse," she said. Valen told her everything. The raid had come at dawn 3 years ago. Shadow Wolves, a faction everyone thought had been wiped out generations before, had poured across the eastern border like a black tide. They'd burned villages, slaughtered warriors, and in the chaos, a shadow mage had found Aislinn. She was trying to help evacuate the children, Valen said, his voice carefully flat. The mage didn't kill her. That would have been mercy. Instead, he marked her with a curse that feeds on light, on life. Every day, she fades a little more. Sylvain listened, her hands clasped tight in her lap. Something about Valen called to her in ways she couldn't explain. Why would a shadow mage curse her instead of killing her? To hurt me. Valen's jaw tightened. The shadow wolves have always hated the throne. My father destroyed their stronghold 20 years ago. This was revenge, slow and personal. And you think my light can counter the shadow? The prophecies say star-blood wolves were created to balance darkness, that your light doesn't just illuminate. He met her eyes. It purifies, burns away corruption at its source. Sylvain thought about the brand on her shoulder, still throbbing, thought about the years of being told she was the corruption, the darkness, the thing that needed burning away. Gregor had called her mother a creature of darkness when the truth was exactly the opposite. They'd had it backwards, all along. I don't know how to use it, she admitted. Tonight was the first time I've ever shifted. I know. That's why I'm not asking you to heal her tonight. Valen moved closer and Sylvain's wolf stirred, pressing toward the surface like it wanted to be near him. Come to Thornhaven. Stay for 1 moon cycle. Let our scholars teach you about your bloodline, and when you're ready, try to save my sister. 1 moon cycle. 28 days. After that, whether you succeed or fail, you're free to go. I'll give you gold, safe passage, a new identity if you want one. Ashford will never touch you again. It was more than fair. It was generous. And that made Sylvain suspicious. Why should I trust you? The question came out sharper than she intended. I've spent my whole life being used by powerful men. Gregor kept me as a slave. Before him, the Elder Council sold my mother to Ashford to cover a debt. Why should you be any different? Valen didn't flinch. You shouldn't trust me. Not yet. Trust is earned, and I haven't earned yours. Then what do you have? He reached into his coat and withdrew a dagger, the blade etched with ancient symbols that seemed to shimmer in the lamplight. A blood oath, binding and unbreakable. I swear on my life and my crown that for 28 days you will be my honored guest, not my prisoner, that no harm will come to you under my protection, and that when the cycle ends, you walk free, regardless of outcome. A blood oath from a king. The magic involved was old, primal. Breaking it meant death. You'd risk that for a stranger? For my sister, I'd risk anything. The raw honesty in his voice decided her. Sylvain stood, ignoring the way her legs trembled. Then swear it. Valen drew the blade across his palm without hesitation. Blood welled up, dark and red, and the symbols on the dagger began to glow. He offered her the blade, hilt first. Sylvain took it. The metal was warm, almost alive. She pressed the edge to her own palm and made a shallow cut, hissing at the sting. When their hands clasped, blood to blood, the world shifted. It wasn't just magic sealing the oath. It was something beneath the magic wrapped around it, woven through it like threads of starlight and shadow intertwined. Sylvain gasped as recognition flooded her, bone deep and ancient. Her wolf howled inside her chest, not in fear but in fierce, desperate joy. Mate. The word echoed through her, primal and undeniable. He's our mate. Valen's grip tightened. His eyes had gone wide, storm gray bleeding into something brighter, and she knew he felt it too. Neither of them spoke. The magic sealed, the oath bound, and between them, something far more dangerous had awakened. They rode through the night, leaving Ashford territory behind like a bad dream. Sylvain had been given proper clothes, leather riding gear that fit surprisingly well, and a horse named Moth, who was gentle despite her imposing size. Valen rode ahead, flanked by his warriors, and she was grateful for the distance. She needed time to think, Time to process the earthquake that had happened when their blood touched. Mate. She'd heard the stories, of course. Every wolf pup grew up learning about the sacred bond, the one person whose soul matched yours perfectly. But she'd never expected to feel it herself. She was cursed blood, tainted, wrong. Mates were for normal wolves, beloved wolves, wolves who deserved happiness, not her. And certainly not with a king. Dawn broke as they crested a ridge, and Sylvain's breath stalled. Thornhaven spread before her like something from a fever dream. The castle rose from a valley thick with ancient forests, its towers carved from white stone that caught the morning light and threw it back in fractured rainbows. A river wound through the grounds, silver bright, and she could see gardens even from this distance, splashes of color against the green. It was beautiful. It was terrifying. "Welcome home," the copper-haired warrior said, pulling his horse alongside hers. He'd introduced himself as Callum, Valen's second. "Thornhaven's been the seat of the High Pack for 600 years. Don't worry, you get used to the size." "I don't think I will." Callum laughed, but it was kind. "The king's given orders. You're to have rooms in the East Wing, near the healers and the library. He thought you'd prefer quiet over grandeur." Sylvain glanced toward Valen, who was speaking with another warrior, deliberately not looking at her. That was thoughtful of him. He's thoughtful about most things, just doesn't like people knowing it. Callum's expression softened. "He's a good man, my lady. Whatever you've heard about the Alpha King, whatever Ashford told you, know that he's a good man." They entered the castle through massive gates, and Sylvain felt the weight of hundreds of eyes. Servants, warriors, nobles, all watching the strange woman ride in beside their king. She kept her chin up, refusing to cower. She'd spent 23 years being stared at like a freak. At least these stares held curiosity instead of hatred. Her rooms were larger than the entire house she'd grown up in. A bed piled with furs, a bathing chamber with heated water, windows that overlooked the river, and on the small table by the fireplace, a tray of food, a set of books about Starblood history, and a note in bold handwriting. "Rest today. Tomorrow, we begin. If you need anything, ask Callum or pull the bell cord. You're safe here. Sylvain. I give you my word." V. She read it 3 times. Then she sat on the bed, wrapped her arms around herself, and let herself cry. Not from sadness. From something far more frightening, hope. The first week at Thornhaven passed in a blur of learning. Every morning, Sylvain met with the castle's chief healer, an ancient woman named Maren, whose eyes seemed to see straight through skin and bone to the soul beneath. Maren taught her about Starblood wolves, the history that Ashford had tried to bury. "Your ancestors were the first wolves," Maren explained, spreading yellowed scrolls across her work table. "Created by the moon goddess herself to hold back the darkness. For centuries, they were revered, protected, until the shadow wolves rose and began hunting them. Why? Because Starblood is the only thing that can truly destroy shadow magic. Not contain it. Destroy it utterly." Marin's wrinkled finger traced an illustration of a wolf wreathed in light. "The shadow wolves slaughtered your kind to protect themselves. Your mother was the last known Starblood. And now you." Sylvain touched the page gently. "My mother never told me any of this. She was protecting you. If the shadow wolves had known you existed." Marin's face darkened. "They likely did know, child. If your mother truly died at their hands rather than Ashford's, it would explain much." Afternoons were spent in the castle gardens, learning to access her wolf without trauma forcing the shift. It was harder than Sylvain expected. Her wolf wanted to emerge, wanted to run, but Sylvain's fear kept pulling her back. "You're fighting yourself," Valen said on the 4th day. He'd taken to joining her practice sessions, keeping his distance but always present. always watching with those storm-gray eyes that made her blood warm. I spent 23 years being told my wolf was a monster. That's not easy to unlearn. No, he agreed quietly. It's not. That night, she finally managed a partial shift, her hands becoming paws of living light before she lost focus and tumbled back into human form. She lay in the grass, panting, as Valen crouched beside her. That was good. That was pathetic. That was progress. His hand hovered near her shoulder, not quite touching. You're pushing too hard. The light responds to emotion, not force. Stop trying to control it and let it flow. She looked up at him. This king who spent his evenings coaching a former slave instead of attending to his kingdom. Why do you keep helping me yourself? Don't you have advisors for this? His gaze shifted, unreadable. I find I prefer being here. The bond hummed between them, unspoken but present. Neither acknowledged it. By the second week, Sylvain could hold her wolf form for nearly an hour. Her light grew stronger, brighter. And finally, Marin deemed her ready to try. They brought her to Aislin's chambers. The princess lay on a bed of white linens, pale as snow, dark veins of shadow visible beneath her translucent skin. She was beautiful despite the curse. Honey gold hair spread across her pillow, features delicate as carved ivory. But her breath came in shallow gasps, and even unconscious, her face twisted with pain. An ache bloomed behind Sylvain's ribs. This girl was dying. This girl who'd tried to save children while her world burned. Can you see it? Valen's voice was rough. The curse? Sylvain let her wolf rise to the surface, just enough to sharpen her senses. And yes, she could see it. A web of darkness wrapped around Aislin's chest, pulsing like a living thing, feeding on her light. It's deep, Sylvain whispered, rooted in her heart. Can you remove it? She wanted to say yes. But when she reached toward Aislinn with her light, the shadow hissed and recoiled, then struck back with a pulse of cold so vicious Sylvain staggered. Images flooded her mind. A fortress of black stone, hooded figures chanting around a fire of purple flame, and a face, a man with silver hair and empty eyes, smiling with cruel satisfaction. I know where it came from, Sylvain gasped, falling to her knees. The mage who cursed her, I saw him. I saw where he is. Valen caught her before she collapsed completely. Where? A fortress, black stone, mountains in the east. She gripped his arms, steadying herself against the vertigo. Valen, he's not just hiding. He's building an army. Shadow wolves, dozens of them. And he knows you've been searching for a Starblood. Valen's face went hard as granite. How does he know? I don't know, but he's expecting us. Expecting me. Sylvain met his eyes. Someone in Thornhaven is feeding him information. The cliffhanger hung in the air, heavy as a death sentence. There was a traitor in the castle. The hunt for the traitor consumed the next 3 days. Valen locked down the castle, questioning everyone who'd known about the search for a Starblood. Sylvain stayed close to Aislin's chambers, both to continue attempting to weaken the curse, and because Valen refused to let her out of his sight. You're hovering, she told him on the third night. They were on the battlements, her favorite place in Thornhaven. The stars seemed closer here, and her wolf felt most at peace beneath their light. I'm protecting. There's a difference? The corner of his mouth twitched, almost a smile. When you're protecting someone who matters, no. Sylvain's breath caught. They'd been dancing around the bond for weeks now, acknowledging it in glances and accidental touches but never speaking of it directly. It was easier that way. Safer. But safety had never been part of her story. Why does your wolf recognize mine? She asked softly. I've read the texts. Mate bonds form between equals. I'm a former slave with powers I barely understand. You're a king. Valen turned to face her fully, moonlight carving shadows across his features. You think titles matter to wolves? I think they matter to everyone else. Then everyone else can go to hell. His voice was rough. My wolf knew you the moment you shifted, knew you like it had been waiting its entire existence for that single heartbeat. Do you think I care what the court whispers? Do you think I care about anything except... He stopped, jaw tight, like he was physically restraining himself. Except what? Sylvain stepped closer. Her wolf was pressing forward, desperate for his warmth. Say it, Valen. Except you. The word came out ragged. Except wanting you so badly it's driving me mad. Except lying awake every night knowing you're 3 corridors away, and I have no right to touch you. Except looking at you and seeing the rest of my life, and being terrified you'll walk away when the moon cycle ends. Sylvain's lungs seized. You think I want to walk away? I think you have every reason to. I think you've spent your whole life being used by powerful men, and I'm asking you to trust another one. His hands clenched at his sides. I think you deserve choices I'm not sure I can give you. What if I've already chosen? Valen went still. Sylvain. I feel it too. She closed the distance between them, tilting her head back to meet his eyes. Every moment of every day. This pull. This need. I keep waiting for it to feel like a cage, like every other trap that's ever closed around me. But it doesn't. What does it feel like? Like coming home. Her voice cracked, like finally being seen. Like maybe, for the first time in my life, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Valen's control shattered. His hands cupped her face, thumbs brushing her cheekbones, and he kissed her like a man who'd been drowning and finally found air. Sylvain melted into him, her fingers fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. The bond between them flared bright. A ribbon of starlight and shadow intertwined, and she felt his wolf howl in triumph, even as hers sang in response. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Valen pressed his forehead to hers. I was trying to be honorable, he rasped, trying to give you space, time, the choice you deserve. I've made my choice. The moon cycle isn't over. You could still... Valen. She silenced him with another kiss, softer this time, tender. Ask me to stay. Not as part of a bargain. Not because of your sister. Ask me because you want me. His eyes searched hers, storm gray burning with intensity. Stay. Not for 28 days. Not for a year. Stay forever. Be my mate, my queen, my partner in everything. Stay and let me spend the rest of my life proving you made the right choice. Yes, Sylvain whispered. To all of it. He kissed her again, deeper, and the stars themselves seemed to brighten in approval. The peace shattered at dawn. Sylvain woke to screaming, the acrid smell of smoke, and Valen already on his feet, sword in hand. Stay here, he ordered, like hell. They ran together through corridors filling with chaos. Warriors shouted, servants fled, and in the great hall, they found the source. Callum stood at the center of the room, his copper hair matted with blood, holding a struggling figure by the throat. Lord Brennan, one of Valen's senior advisors, a man who'd served the crown for 30 years. Found our traitor, Callum said grimly. Caught him trying to send a raven. Message was already written. Valen took the crumpled parchment from Callum's hand. As he read, his face went white, then red with fury. What does it say? Sylvain asked. It says the Starblood is bonded to the king, that we've grown close, that if the Shadow Mage wants to destroy me completely, all he has to do is take you. The words hit her like a fist to the stomach. Brennan laughed, bloody and defiant. You think you've won? The message was a decoy, you fools. The real information went out yesterday. Lord Malachar knows everything. He knows about the girl, about the bond, about the princess. He's coming. Coming here? Valen's voice was ice. Coming to finish what he started 3 years ago. Brennan's smile was grotesque. Shadow wolves are already in the mountains. By nightfall, Thornhaven will burn, your sister will die, and your precious Starblood mate will be in chains. Valen moved so fast Sylvain barely saw it. His fist connected with Brennan's jaw, dropping the traitor unconscious to the floor. How many? Valen demanded, turning to Callum. Scouts report at least 200 shadow wolves, maybe more. 200. Valen closed his eyes. We have 50 warriors in the castle. We can't hold them, Callum said quietly. Not those numbers. Not with shadow magic backing them. Sylvain's mind raced. 200 shadow wolves, all coming for her, for Icelyn, for Valen, because of her, because she'd been foolish enough to hope. There's another option, she said. Both men looked at her. Malachar wants me. He needs me, actually. Starblood is the only thing that can destroy his shadow magic permanently. That's why he's been hiding, building his army. He's scared. Sylvain, no. Valen's voice was sharp with fear. If I go to him, you are not offering yourself as bait. I'm offering myself as a weapon. She met his eyes, willing him to understand. I've been practicing for weeks. My light is stronger than it's ever been. And he doesn't know what I can really do. This is suicide. This is our only chance. She gripped his hands. We don't wait for him to come here. We go there. Tonight. A small force. Fast and quiet. I get close to Malachar. I burn away his shadow magic at its source, and your warriors handle the rest. Valen was shaking his head. If something goes wrong, then it goes wrong fighting, not hiding. Sylvain squeezed his hands. I spent 23 years being a victim, cowering, surviving. I won't do it anymore. Not when I finally have something worth protecting. The words hung between them. Valen's jaw worked, a war raging behind his eyes. I'm coming with you, he said finally. Every step, every moment. If we do this, we do it together. I wouldn't have it any other way. He pulled her close, holding her like the world was ending. Maybe it was. Or maybe it was finally beginning. They left at sunset, 30 warriors moving through the mountains like ghosts. Sylvain rode beside Valen, her wolf pacing restlessly beneath her skin. The closer they got to Malachar's fortress, the more she felt the shadow magic pressing against her senses, oily and cold. There, Callum whispered, pointing. The fortress rose from a jagged peak, black stone that seemed to absorb the moonlight. Purple flames flickered in windows. And below, spreading across the mountain pass, an army of shadow wolves waited. They know we're coming, Valen muttered. Good. Sylvain dismounted. That means he'll come to me. She walked forward before anyone could stop her, letting her wolf rise, letting the shift take her. Starlight exploded outward, her form blazing against the darkness like a fallen star. The shadow wolves recoiled, howling in pain as her light touched them. And from the fortress gates, a figure emerged. Malachar was exactly as she'd seen in her vision. Silver hair, empty eyes, a smile that promised suffering. Shadow magic coiled around him like a living cloak. The little Starblood. His voice was silk over broken glass. I've been waiting for you. Funny, I've been waiting for you too. Have you? He studied her glowing form. You're stronger than I expected. Your mother screamed so prettily when we killed her. I assumed her daughter would be equally fragile. The truth crashed into Sylvain like a physical blow. All these years, she'd believed Ashford's story, that they had executed her mother for her crime. But it had been a lie. Shadow wolves. Him. They had taken her mother from her. Rage detonated in her chest, white-hot and blinding. You killed her, Sylvain breathed, her light flaring brighter. Not Ashford, you. Ashford? Malachar laughed. Those pathetic mongrels couldn't kill a rabbit. They found your mother's body and claimed credit to avoid looking weak. You're going to die tonight, Sylvain said, her voice resonating with power she hadn't known she possessed. She attacked. Light erupted from her in a wave, searing through the nearest shadow wolves, burning them to ash. Malachar threw up a shield of darkness, but Sylvain's light ate through it, forcing him backward. Behind her, Valen's warriors clashed with the Shadow Wolf army. Steel rang, wolves howled, but she couldn't look back. Malachar's counterattack hit her like a frozen lance. Sylvain staggered but held her ground. She thought of her mother, thought of Iceland, thought of Valen. Her light flared brighter. Impossible, Malachar snarled. You're just a child. I'm the last of my bloodline. Sylvain stalked forward, her form blazing so bright the shadows themselves seemed to scream. I'm the thing your kind has feared for centuries, and I'm done being afraid. She reached deep into the core of what she was. The light answered. It poured out of her like a river breaking a dam, like a sun being born. Malachar tried to run, tried to summon more darkness, but there was no darkness left. Sylvain's light had consumed it all. His scream was the last sound he ever made. When the light finally faded, Sylvain collapsed to her knees. The fortress was silent. The Shadow Wolf army had scattered. And Malachar was gone. Nothing left but ash on the wind. Valen reached her first, gathering her into his arms. You did it, he breathed against her hair. You actually did it. Is Aislinn? The curse should break with his death. His voice cracked. You saved her. You saved everyone. Sylvain let herself sag against him, exhaustion dragging at every muscle. But beneath the tiredness, something else bloomed. Victory, freedom, hope. They brought her home in triumph. Word had already spread by the time they reached Thornhaven. The Starblood Queen who had walked into an army of shadows and emerged victorious, the light that had burned away centuries of darkness. Sylvain barely registered any of it. She slept for 2 days straight, her body recovering from channeling more power than it had ever held. When she finally woke, Valen was beside her bed, looking like he hadn't slept at all. You're supposed to be running a kingdom, she croaked. The kingdom can wait. He took her hand, pressing his lips to her knuckles. You're more important. Aislinn? Awake, eating solid food, demanding to meet you. A real smile crossed his face. The curse broke completely when Malachar died. She's going to be fine, Sylvain, because of you. Relief flooded through her, warm and sweet. She'd done it. Actually done it. The moon cycle ends tomorrow, Valen said quietly. Sylvain blinked. Between the battle, the 2 days of sleep, and the week of recovery travel back to Thornhaven, the remaining days had slipped past. The original bargain. 28 days, and then freedom. I know what I promised, Valen continued. Gold, safe passage, a new identity. Whatever you want. It's yours. He met her eyes, and she saw the fear he was trying to hide. But I'm asking you, Sylvain, not as your king, just as a man who loves you more than he knew it was possible to love anyone. Stay. Choose me. Choose us. You think I'd leave after everything? She sat up, ignoring the ache in her muscles. After finding you? After finally having something real? I think you've earned the right to want things for yourself. A quiet life, safety, no politics, no crown. She kissed him. It was the only way to stop the torrent of noble self-sacrifice pouring out of him. She kissed him until he stopped talking, until his arms wrapped around her, until they were both breathless. I choose you, she said against his mouth. I will always choose you. The crown, the politics, the responsibilities. I'll figure it out. But you, Valen, you're not negotiable. His forehead dropped to hers. I don't deserve you. Probably not. But you're stuck with me anyway. He laughed, broken and beautiful, and held her like she was the only thing keeping him alive. Lord Brennan's trial was swift and brutal. The evidence was overwhelming. Letters, payments, testimony from servants who'd seen him meeting with Shadow Wolf messengers for years. He'd been Malakar's creature since before Iceland was cursed. The council found him guilty of high treason. He hanged at dawn, and Sylvain didn't attend. She'd seen enough death to last a lifetime. Instead, she spent the morning with Aislinn, who had recovered with astonishing speed. "He really loves you," Aislinn said, watching Sylvain brush her honey-gold hair. "I've never seen him like this." "Like what?" "Happy." Aislinn twisted to look at her. "Light. Like the weight he's been carrying finally has someone to share it with." Something warm unfurled in Sylvain's chest. "He makes me feel the same way." "Good." Aislinn grinned, looking for the first time like the 17-year-old she actually was. "Because I've already decided I like you, and it would be very annoying if you broke his heart." "No plans to do that." "Perfect." Aislinn settled back. "Then you should probably know he's been planning something. Secret meetings with the council, the ceremonial keepers. He's trying to be subtle, but he's terrible at it." Sylvain's pulse quickened. "Planning what?" "Oh, I couldn't possibly say." Aislinn's eyes sparkled with mischief. "But if I were you, I'd wear something pretty tonight." The great hall had been transformed. Thousands of candles floated near the ceiling, their light mingling with the silver glow of the full moon streaming through the windows. White flowers cascaded from every surface, and at the center of it all, beneath an arch woven with starlight blooms, Valen waited. He wore black and silver, the colors of his house, but his crown was absent. Tonight, Sylvain realized, he wasn't here as a king, just as a man. She walked toward him in a gown of midnight blue, the fabric shimmering with every step like captured starlight. The court watched in silence, but she barely noticed them. Her eyes were fixed on Valen, on the way he looked at her like she was the only thing in the universe worth seeing. "You planned this," she murmured when she reached him. Guilty. His smile was nervous, vulnerable, utterly endearing. Aislinn helped. She mentioned. He took her hands, and Sylvain felt the bond between them pulse, warm and certain. "I had a speech prepared," Valen said. "Pages of it. Everything I feel, everything I want to give you. But standing here, looking at you, I can't remember a single word." "Then just say what matters." He nodded, gathering himself. "You walked into my life when I'd given up hope. You saved my sister when no one else could. You faced an army of shadows and burned them away like they were nothing. But none of that is why I love you." Sylvain's eyes prickled. "Why then?" "Because you're brave without being reckless. Because you're kind without being weak. Because you've survived things that would have broken anyone else and come out stronger." His thumbs traced circles on her palms. "Because when I imagine my future, every path leads to you." A tear slipped down her cheek. Valen caught it with his thumb. "Sylvain of the Starblood," he murmured. "Will you bond with me? Will you stand beside me, not as a subject, but as an equal? Will you be my mate, my queen, my partner in everything for as long as we both live?" "Yes." The word came out fierce, certain. 1,000 times yes. The ceremonial keeper stepped forward, ancient words spilling into the air as their hands remained clasped. Magic swirled around them, the bond that had been humming since their first blood oath now blazing to full life. When it settled, Sylvain felt something click into place. Not a cage, not a chain. A bridge, connecting them in ways that went deeper than words could express. The court erupted in cheers, but neither of them noticed. Valen kissed her, slow and deep, and the world narrowed to just the two of them. Later, much later, they lay tangled in moonlight in the king's chambers. Their chambers now. "Tell me something," Sylvain murmured, tracing patterns on his bare chest. Anything. When did you know? That I was the one? When my wolf bowed. But honestly, I think I knew before that. When you were kneeling in that courtyard, beaten and bloody and facing down an entire pack that wanted you dead, and your eyes still held fire. Sylvain's throat tightened. And you decided to take a chance on me. Best decision I ever made. He tilted her chin up. What about you? The note. The first night here. You thought about what I might need to feel safe. She kissed his chest. That's when I knew you were different. A note. He laughed softly. I agonized over that note for an hour. Time well spent. They fell into comfortable silence, the bond humming between them. What happens now? Sylvain asked. Now we live. Valen pulled her closer. We help Iceland finish recovering. We rebuild what the Shadow Wolves destroyed, and we love each other through all of it. Sylvain closed her eyes, listening to his heartbeat beneath her ear. She thought about the woman she'd been, kneeling in that courtyard, certain she was going to die. That woman wouldn't recognize her now. Queen. Mate. Star-blood warrior who had burned away in ancient darkness and found love in the ashes. They'd forced her to shift to shame her bloodline. Instead, they'd set her free. And as the full moon painted silver across their bed, Sylvain finally let herself believe in happily ever after.